Star Wars: The Last Jedi has been surrounded by controversy lately, and just when you thought it was kind of dying down, it really hasn't. And we've heard this whole thing with Kelly Marie Tran and some other incidents. But yeah, the controversy is not really over just yet. My name is Andy, and with me is Vlad.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
And today we're going to be talking about why Star Wars: The Last Jedi was not a very good film.
Right on. Let's just jump right into it.
So recently we saw this video from Dev Allen from Now This, and he's basically defending the film.
Mm-hmm.
Now my understanding is from what we saw and the title of this video, it was actually a response to what happened to Kelly Marie Tran. Now I want to get into this just a little bit, because as a Star Wars fan, I found this to be very appalling and very atrocious that fans of something that I love very dearly act in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it hasn't.
I want to say real quick, it could be half fans and then half trolls also.
It could be. I mean, the internet has created this type of environment where these type of people, these type of people can come out of the woodwork and wreak havoc on other people's lives.
True.
And hopefully that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it is the fact that it is trolls that are doing this and not actual Star Wars fans. But by saying that at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that it goes away. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that as long as it's not Star Wars fans, it's fine. No, it's not fine either way.
Yeah.
Right? But it was pretty bad what happened, and I feel for Kelly Marie Tran. It's not a test of her acting abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The character that she played on Star Wars is, of course, something that as fans we didn't like, but not because of the acting, not because of the actress herself, but because of the character itself, the way it was written, the way it was just kind of thrown into the film and really had no purpose to be in the film, and it didn't progress the story along, really, to be honest with you. And that's really my I guess my dislike, one of the dislikes of the film. But as far as the actress herself, I mean, I don't know why people would associate the character and the actress to be the same thing, and if you didn't like the character, you automatically have to bully around the actress, or the actor.
Well, I think that's the sad part. I mean, they did the same thing to, like I was saying, Daisy Ridley. Sorry, to Daisy Ridley when she played Rey, and she got a lot of backlash for the same reason, and that's why, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if she got off social media, but I don't think she has a very, at all no social media presence because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it goes with, it sucks that it goes with the territory that once you become mega famous in an instant because of a huge movie that you're in, you're automatically a target, by all these people that if they didn't like your character performance, just the way things are, but don't directly, put all your hatred towards one person, because I don't think anyone else got as probably badly harassed as her.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, from what I heard, going into, I think it was Wikipedia, and changing her around her her entry with the racist remarks.
Wow.
I mean, I thought that was just really ridiculous. I mean,
He's taking it to an extreme.
It is taking it to an extreme, and just the internet has created this way of doing things where you kind of lose your humanity for some reason. And I know that face to face it's a little bit harder to do these things. Because you do have that regret. You can't hide behind that anonymity of, I'm going to do it using this name or this handle or this whatever it may be.
We saw that way back in the day when we first started college with, remember chat rooms?
Yeah, chat rooms.
Message boards,
Yeah.
Well, even to this day, people still do that, but in the day of, like, the different type of social media that's out there, of, like, the instant something hits and people don't like it, they can direct all their hatred in an instant, through Instagram, Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter. Or
Twitter,
whatever.
I mean, it almost seems like it doesn't matter what type of social media is out there; it's gonna happen. And that's the sad part. And as a fan, I do apologize for all of us, to Kelly Marie Tran for something like that happening. It is a bad thing that does happen, and I hope she doesn't take it to heart. You know, I hope that she can kind of see that it's not everyone.
Yeah.
And, you know, just take it in stride and not let it affect her.
Yeah.
You know, and let go too much to her head, and hopefully she can, you know, just
kind of like it's in a way it kind of sucks because like we always say is like the most vocal people are the loudest ones because like you know they're gonna just continue with that barrage of automatic insults throughout all the social media, but at the same time like she knows that there are fans out there. We might disagree, but then again that's why you know everyone is entitled to their opinion as far as maybe a lot of people liked her character. I mean, more power to them, but there's still a lot to discuss as to why the film is the way it is, and then that way we can kind of go into now talking about how this guy Dev Allen says he doesn't understand why people are.
Yeah, I mean, right now you just mentioned about disagreeing, and I saw this video and I think I disagree with most of it.
I feel the same way.
I felt it was like a straw man's argument.
Yeah.
He was just kind of picking at certain things and not really explaining anything whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it from a broader point of view as far as saying, you know what, you might like specific parts, just like with any movie, but as a whole, if none of it really worked as a whole, then it's a colossal failure in our opinion.
Right.
Because you have to have every single part fit like a puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, to make everything flow correctly. And you know, we'll just get into talking a little bit more about that. I mean, we've only seen it once. We got to tell everyone listening to us here. We only saw it that one time in.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Yeah.
I've only seen it once, and
was that enough? I think.
I think that was enough. I mean, it's like I was telling you earlier. I have not missed, with the exception of the original releases of the classics, because I was still too young for those. But when it came to the special editions, the prequels, and even episode 7 and 8, I have not missed a single premiere. I haven't. And I've been to every prequel premiere. I have been to the special edition premieres, and I have been to the premiere of episode 7. I've been to the premiere of episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
And
same here, yeah, same for me.
Like I was saying, we have invested so much in these films, and we have committed a lot of our loyalty to these films. I mean, not only did I watch the films, but I used to buy the comic books. I buy the novels. The video games, the toys, the shirts, you know, the merchandising, everything. Now we committed a lot to this, you know, to this film, and it pains me personally to see something like episode 8 and episode 7 not connect the way the classics and the prequels did, in a way where it was like you can watch 7 and 8 and the story just kind of flows nicely with some mystery, some intrigue. And
to keep it going.
Correct. You
gotta have that hook.
Right. You have questions in one episode that are answered in the next episode, but then the next episode asks different questions, which are then answered in the finale.
Sure.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way the classics were. That's the way the prequels were. But episode 7 asked so many questions that episode 8 never answered. And episode 8 just asked more questions. And now you have a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of questions that are unanswered. Unanswered questions.
Might still be even go unanswered.
And most probably. Yeah. And that's the fear. That's the fear that you're going to get into episode 9 and nothing is going to be resolved. Yeah. And
that's just sad, yeah.
I'm not going to the premiere of episode 9, unfortunately.
Like right now you're just throwing it out there. You just don't feel the... What if the trailer just completely blows you away?
It's not going to, because episode 7, the trailer blew me away.
What if it's like Chewbacca but wearing like normal clothes? Will they get you to watch it or?
I might, you know, it'd be interesting to see Chewbacca in like a pair of jeans or something. You know, I would like to see him in a pair of jeans and a wife beater shirt.
There you
know,
go.
One of those whole white tanks. You know, it's like
I mean, that would be nice. Me, I'd probably want to see him like in one of those Hawaiian old dad shirts and some, you know.
One of those was it the Panama?
There you go. Yeah.
Is it Panama Jack or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't remember what brand that was, but
maybe wearing a pair of Uggs or something. I don't know. It's like.
Well, he kind of already is wearing Uggs, isn't he? Aren't Uggs usually those like really furry ones?
Yeah.
You know,
furry boots or something. Anyways,
but
stay on target.
Stay on. Oh my god.
You know I was gonna throw that in there.
Yeah, I was telling my coworker Kike.
Shout out there.
Shout out to my coworker Kike out there. I was thinking about that GIF with Porkins and the KFC.
It's still the best. Yeah. When we saw that back in the day, yeah. We just kept watching. We're just mesmerized by it.
Hilarious, man.
What happened in one window just there
on target. You got that bucket of chicken
juggling around.
But I mean, I don't know. He's defending the film, and everyone has a right to. Yeah. You know, they have a right to their opinion. The only thing is that I didn't see any validity to his defenses.
Yeah, to defend. Yeah.
You know, we have the video. We'll go ahead and play some portions of it. We'll pause it, and then we'll discuss what it is that he's talking about. So let's go ahead and play the first portion of it real quick.
Hey guys, I'm Dev, and I don't get the controversy behind The Last Jedi. On Rotten Tomato, there's a 37% gap between the critics and the user rating. And some of the most diehard Star Wars fans have big issues with the way it steered the saga.
Okay, let me get into this real quick. Mm-hmm. Now, he's talking about, you know, what was it, a 30% difference between the critics and the fans?
Like 57, I think, or something.
Yeah, 93% on the critics' side. It was, I think, 56% on the user side. Doesn't that tell you something?
Oh, yeah. There's a huge disagreement there between...
There is a disagreement between the critics and the fans. And
like I said, the critics are... just get wine and dine and they go watch the film. Like, they get a totally different experience. Everything paid for. So, I mean, it's very biased right there.
It is, because, I mean, you may not... Okay, it may not happen to all of the critics.
But a majority,
a lot of critics, the majority of these critics, they get invited to pre-screenings of these.
They get flown out to places. Flown out to wherever it is.
It's kind of like when you go to the Oscars.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the Oscars, when you have a film in the Oscars that's being nominated, they make a party for it. They give gifts to everybody that is voting on these films, and unfortunately, the one who throws the best party and gives you the best gifts actually wins the Oscar.
Exactly.
It's something similar. You know, you get as a critic, you get invited to these pre-screenings. I mean, they can get wined and dined, and
they'll be like, well, I don't want to stop this gravy train from, you know, providing me with future,
right? You know, future pre-screenings and future parties and so forth and so forth.
Of course, yeah. That's what kind of. I mean, that's kind of the way I see it. But at the same time, you'll see these critics that will still say that it was an excellent film when we as fans, even if you look at it also not even through the fan lens, you can still see there's a lot of issues here even at a most basic level.
Yeah, even if you remove, let's say for instance, you remove the prequels and the classics, and you just look at 7 and 8 as standalone films, they don't really stand alone. Mm-hmm. You know, it just, there was a lot of issues, you know, plot wise, a lot of issues character wise, and a lot of issues, you know, having to do with the lore itself. Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
Changing up stuff again.
Yes, you know, they changed around some things.
You know, what they say is we're trying to do something different, but, you know, different will work when it's well thought out and well implemented, but at the same time, we just saw none of that here. I mean, it's, as sad as it is that they don't write it, they said that they didn't write it as a trilogy, they're going movie by movie by movie, so there's 3 of them, well, I mean, at least in this trilogy. It does not have that flow that, like we said, you know.
It doesn't. It creates a disconnection.
It's kind of like if an author just says, "Oh, I'm going to write the first part of the book, and then I have someone else write the second one, and we'll see how it turns out."
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it just feels sloppy, you know, like especially for something like Star Wars, where you feel it has to be work as one whole huge epic piece, and for them to say, "Oh, we're just going to change things up," but that's why we got what we got with episode 7 and 8. It doesn't feel like, you know, like you said, stuff doesn't get resolved in 8. The following one, it gets more stuff, gets, you know, more unanswered questions, and then who knows where we're going to be in episode 9. But anyways, going back to what you wanted to talk about regarding this first section that we're talking about here, about him not understanding. That's what's crazy for someone to say that he's a fan and say he doesn't understand where the fans are coming from. It's like, come on, man.
Right. That's really what I wanted to say. It's like, I mean, he's pointing out the fact that there's you know, that 37% difference in Rotten Tomatoes, and that's why, because you have fans that, you know, are hardcore fans of the film and the history and the lore of Star Wars.
Super invested, yeah.
And they are really invested in the films. So when you get something like this that really kind of is uncharacteristic of of Star Wars itself, the characters and the stories, then we're gonna feel a disconnection ourselves. So when we see it and we see that it's not the same, it's not what we understood it to be. It's not the fact that it's because of new characters, it's because they're killing off characters. No, that's fine. It's just that the way that it's being done and the way that you're characterizing these new characters, it's not meshing with everything that we've known about Star Wars and how they should act and how they should be and so forth and so forth. Even though they're new characters, and this whole thing, like for instance about the Jedi and the Sith and how Snoke and Kylo Ren are not Sith. This is something that J.J. Abrams
he said it himself.
Has already come out and said. I mean, he's still explaining Episode 7 to this day.
And like we said, that's the sign of a movie that fails. When you have to have the directors and the writers continue to have to come out in interviews and explain stuff at events or on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever. It's like, come on, man, you didn't do your job right.
You didn't. If the film does not explain itself, if it does not stand on its own, then it's not good. It's poorly written.
Exactly.
And then for you to have to come over, it's like, oh well, it's because you have to watch this featurette. Oh, it's because this happened.
It was so bad when episode 8 was released. It was like every day or every 2 days I would see articles on Yahoo, like where Ryan Johnson kept coming on saying, oh, was this because of this? Oh, it's because of that. No, but it's because you didn't pay attention to this. Or it's like, come on, man. Like when you treat your audience like that, it's like. That's just so sad, that you have to, the movie has to do everything, and that's it.
And that's it, exactly.
Very simple.
So going into that, I mean, let's go ahead and continue. Let's see what else Mr. Allen here has to say.
I loved it, and so did the rest of the Now There's 13, and we were a little curious why this awesome movie has become so divisive. We are issuing our strongest possible spoiler warning for this one.
I like
the entire movie is fair game, so if you haven't seen it yet, we've got a whole playlist of Star Wars stuff for you instead. Now, for all of those of you still with us, let's figure out why people hate The Last Jedi. For years, we've been poring over every scrap of information trying to learn what we could about this movie, and plenty of fans have passed the time conjuring up all kinds of theories. Is Snoke a disfigure Mace Windu back from the dead? Was Rey created by midichlorians? Is she secretly a Skywalker? A lot of the most hardcore Star Wars fans were desperate for answers, but all of those red arrows in the YouTube thumbnails were pretty much pointing to nothing at all. But one thing we can all agree on about The Last Jedi is it didn't go the way we thought.
No, I didn't.
Supreme Leader Snoke just turned out to be some old asshole in a sparkly robe. He pretty much just shows up to die, and we never learn about his rise to power or his connection to the dark side, but doesn't really matter. I can think of another cackling lunatic we didn't really know anything about. In the original trilogy, Emperor Palpatine was just as shallow as Snoke. He's nothing more than an extremely effective plot device.
Not to betray you, Father. I feel the good in you, the conflict.
And we learned all we need to know about him with just a few lines of dialogue and some badass lightning. The prequel showed his beginnings as a scheming politician and now...
Okay, let's get to that.
Here we go.
He just said that we learn everything we need to know with just a few lines of dialogue. Dialogue that came from the film. Dialogue that you learn a lot from the Emperor just by the dialogue of other characters in A New Hope, in Empire Strikes Back, and in Return of the Jedi.
Exactly.
So that when you get to Return of the Jedi, you already know where this guy stands. Okay? That's the difference, okay? You cannot compare Snoke and Emperor Palpatine because Snoke, there was nothing ever said about Snoke.
There was only two people interacting with him.
And they never talked about
him.
You saw him in Episode 7 as a hologram, and then you saw him in Episode 8, and he dies.
Yeah. Spoiler, but not like it cares, not like it matters.
I mean, it's ridiculous for him to actually compare Emperor Palpatine to Snoke, and the fact that we didn't know anything about Emperor Palpatine. No, that's a lie. That's fake.
Yep.
Because even if you take the prequels out, where they completely explain Palpatine and how he rose to power, let's just look at the prequels or the classics themselves. In the classics, by way of dialogue between like Tarkin and Vader and the rest of the Empire, the guys that were there, you know that the Emperor one rose to power and he dismantled the Senate. That is in A New Hope. It is in the dialogue. You know that he is a Sith Lord. You know that he is very powerful. You know that he's the one ruling everything. You know that he's the one who trained at the time that we know of. He trained Vader. You know, so you know he's
and this is before we've even seen him. That's what I loved about it. Like it sets it up in a way where you're kind of in a way imagining like I don't even want to meet this guy.
Exactly.
Like, you're afraid to see him. And that's how I felt when I first saw it as a kid because I was like, man, who's going to be this emperor? Because you don't see it right off the bat, and then when you see when he eventually shows up in that first appearance, you're just like frozen because you're like, man, this is the guy calling the shots and. After this, there ain't no messing around. Yeah. As intimidating as Darth Vader already was, it's just like you're already thinking this guy is his boss. You know, so you're just like that's why we say it's a very different build up and a very different build of the character before you even see him and before he's even a major part of the story just yet. And with what they handled with Snoke, well, I mean.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Like when you get into the Emperor, you get a little insight into the Emperor and his power. By way of Vader, because basically a lot of the officers in the Empire, they feared Vader. And if you can fear the guy who fears the Emperor, then you're going to fear the Emperor even more. And especially in subsequent films, in Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi, when, I believe it was in Empire Strikes Back, when the Emperor goes to, I guess, what's it called? He goes to see that the construction of the second Death Star is on time and so forth. You can see it in the way that the officers act and the way that they see him and the way they talk to him, that they fear him.
Yeah, they're on edge.
This is a very powerful man that is capable of such atrocities as genocide, which is something that is, again, said in the films. It's not implied, it's there.
It's right there.
And so this is the reason why you fear the Emperor. This is a lot of information that's coming in to basically give you the character of the Emperor. When you talk about Snoke,
at first I think they tried to kind of keep it a similar, mysterious.
Which is good. Yeah, I mean, I did like that.
They tried, yeah.
Yeah, that you have that mystery, that you have that intrigue. But I mean,
the way it ended up, in episode 8 was just like you have a build up to that, and then that happens, and you're just like, that's not really a surprise to me. That's more of a disappointment, a waste of a character, like you said, because he didn't do nothing. It seems like he didn't. You just figure he's the ultimate badass in charge of everything. Yet, yeah, he's gone now, and then Kylo's now going to be the guy running the show, or who knows where they're going to take it. But at this point, I don't even know if we care enough to even theorize, because you know how before we would theorize about so many great things in films, and there's just something about us where we're with 9. With me personally, I feel like I'm just dreading that film. You know what I mean? Like as much as the trailers are gonna try and hype us up, I still feel it's gonna be like the way episode 8 turned out. And yes, we're going back to J.J. Abrams, which he did a decent job, but not an ultimate job. You know, outstanding job, which is what you'd figure he should have done. Because I mean, he did good work with Star Trek, the original. Because I don't know if he did the second one, Into Darkness. But
yeah, I believe he did. Actually, all of them are his, I believe. Which is Star Trek Into Darkness, and then Star Trek Beyond. Yeah. I believe all 3 of them are his, and I really love what he did with Super 8.
Yeah, that was a good film. Yeah,
it was a really good film, and I'm one of the ones that I did like Cloverfield as well.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that one.
When I first heard that J.J. Abrams was going to be doing Star Wars Episode 7, I was both excited and wary. Because
that's a tall order.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he had really good films on his resume already. Yeah. He had already done Star Trek, and I do like the Star Trek films. I thought he did a real good job with those. And for him to take on Star Wars, I mean, to me, it's a little bit bigger.
It's a lot. I mean, it's a huge different beast. Because I mean, Star Trek has always had, a more controlled environment, is what I like to call it. It's not trying to be as expansive. At least not in the films. When it's a series, well, that's a different thing. Of course, they're gonna go to different, planets, different galaxies, and all that. But Star Wars is always, there's way more stuff to be having to keep track of. Way more, plot points. Yeah. Way more going on.
Well, because they're usually all connected. When you talk about Star Trek, usually all of the films are standalone.
Oh yeah, true.
Of course, with the exception of the
Search for Spock.
Spock. Here you go. The Spock films. I think there was 2 of them.
Yeah.
Which was I think Voyage Home and Search for Spock.
Yeah.
I think those 2 dealt with him in particular, but the rest are basically standalone. You watch Star Trek the movie, Wrath of Khan.
Still the best one.
Yeah, Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
All of those are just really standalone films. You can watch them without having to watch the others.
Yeah.
So
You won't be lost. Yeah.
Star Wars is a little bit different because you can watch them as a standalone film, but there's certain things here and there that you like to know about, which you're only going to get if you watch the previous film.
True.
So it's made that way. They're episodes. That's why
you already know that going into the
exactly.
Pretty much, we know it's not.
You have episode 4, 5, and 6, and you're not going to watch episode 6 without watching episodes 4 and 5 first.
That's your choice, but it's not gonna be a wise choice.
Correct. I mean, you could watch, say for instance, Return of the Jedi. You could watch it on its own, and it starts off, of course, with Luke trying to capture Han from Jabba. But at the same time, you want to know how did Han get to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like skipping to the last third of the book.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't want to do that. And you're gonna get to like a lot of exciting, parts first, but the build up to it is always way more, way more gratifying to watch everything as a whole and then have everything connect.
So you could watch them as a standalone film, but again, there's going to be certain things that, hey, why is that like that? Well, you're only going to get that if you watch the previous films.
Exactly,
If you're not very curious, you could watch it on its own and it'll stand fine on its own. Yeah. But it's better if you watch them as a series the way they're supposed to be.
True. And I mean, going back to Snoke, I mean, that's what I think for, all of us as Star Wars fans saw the potential there, but then it just never went anywhere from
it never materialized. I mean, there was so much potential to that character, that mystery, of who was he, where did he come from, why
was he
I mean, why is he strong in the Force? Not only that, but you get into in the prequels when you see Palpatine, and then Palpatine gives you the story of Darth Plagueis, and then you kind of figure out that, Darth Plagueis was his master. Then that raises, as a Star Wars fan, that raises questions every time you see a Sith master. It's like, well, who was his master?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you want to know more about that character, and that's
that awesome hook that Star Wars always has, that rich lore.
And that's why we get into the EU a lot, into extended universe. Yeah. Because of that fact, because we want to know more. We could leave it as the films are, which is just fine. But those of us who like to know a little bit more, we go into the EU. The EU is there for us who want to know more. But we all have an understanding that EU is not canon. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's so much to explore, and I think the sad part is with Snoke, it's just cut off, and we're left with a death that ultimately all of us were like, seriously? I mean, that's the way he's gonna go out.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw the film. I was
we were sitting next to each other, and for me, I was just like, I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say, because I'm like, seriously, like what is this?
Yes.
It just seemed, I understand on one hand they want to be like, well, we want to keep you on your toes. You never know what's gonna happen, but that was not a proper way to send off a villain. One that you could say was gonna be what we thought, the way they were portraying it to be an epic villain, or someone that's gonna have
the next emperor. That's really what it was looking as. And just to have Kylo Ren
kill him or outthink him or whatever he wants to, whatever they want.
I mean, Episode 7 itself did not set up Kylo Ren to be that capable.
He was just throwing tantrums left and right. Is what he was doing. Remember that scene where he was smashing that console? Yeah. I was saying, what is this? That was just so bad. It didn't even feel like a Star Wars, like right at that moment. I'm like, what are we watching?
And there were several things.
Apart from one of the many moments. When that moment happens, I'm still like, wow, this isn't a Star Wars movie. I'm actually seeing a tantrum. Like,
for me,
this ain't Rugrats or something.
For me, it was that Finn and Rey dance after they. After they shot down some TIE fighters. I was like, oh my god, this is completely Disneyfied.
That chipper moment, it was way too chipper. I know that scene. I was like,
I really hated that scene. I thought that was one of the stupidest scenes ever.
But I mean, back on track. Should we continue with another scene?
Let's go ahead and continue. See what else he has to say.
Congratulations on your election, Chancellor.
But how much does that really actually add to the throne room showdown in Jedi? As for Rey, her parents turned out to be a couple of space drunks who traded her for booze. She's not part of the Grand Skywalker lineage. Thank you. She was just a scavenger on a junk planet before the Force found her, just like the little servant kid from Canto Bight, or a certain whiny farm boy from a shithole called Tatooine.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
The Force isn't some dynasty that only people with the right bloodline can wield. It's the glue between every molecule of the Star Wars galaxy.
Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
And it belongs to every living being in it. That, I think...
Okay, let's get into this.
There we go.
Okay. I don't know where he gets his information. Okay, but
He's ill-informed.
yes, that's one of the most stupidest comments anyone can ever say. That it is not tied down to your bloodline. Yes, it is. Everyone has the Force. He's correct about that. Everyone has midichlorians in them. Not everyone can use it.
Yes.
It depends on who you are. Sometimes a Force user is more powerful than another. Okay, so let's assume all of this was real in real life. All of us here would have the Force, but none of us could wield it. None of us could manipulate it the way such as Anakin did, the way Luke did, the way now Rey does. You know, none of us can do that. It takes a special person with a high midichlorian count in order to do that, and not everyone has that. And just like genetics, yeah, if you're born into a certain bloodline that already has a large amount of midichlorians, guess what? Chances are your bloodline is going to continue having those large amounts of midichlorians. If you don't, then hello, you're not going to get it, okay? I'm sorry, if your parents weren't special, chances are you're not going to be special in the Force. Alright, that's just the way it works. Of course, you do get those oddballs where no one is special, but then all of a sudden this kid comes out and he's like, holy crap, he's special. And that's where you get like the virgins in the Force like Anakin, you know? But, I mean, yes, bloodline has a lot to do with it. No, and even if you look at the EU, if you look at Koran Horn does not have telekinetic power. That's just the way he is. He can use the Force in other ways, and he is a Jedi, but he doesn't have that telekinetic power. He can't manipulate the Force in that way. And unfortunately, his son came out the same way. His son does not have, because it's part of his bloodline. Because they're unable to manipulate the Force in that way, unfortunately, his son's going to be the same. And if his son has a son, it might end up the same until they reach that point where maybe, you know, the great grandson might have a child that, yes, they'll be able to manipulate the Force and have the telekinetic power.
True.
But it is part of bloodline. It's genetics. It's just the way that it is. Obviously, he doesn't understand genetics, and he doesn't understand Star Wars. Well, you know, I mean, but that is the way that it works. You know, so yes, bloodline has a lot to do with it, and the fact that everyone has the Force. Not everyone has the Force. We have midichlorians, but we don't have the Force per se. You know, so for him to actually say that and have that as one of his arguments, no, I'm sorry.
He's on another level of not being informed about that. Anyways, we go back to watching.
The perfect metaphor for the direction Star Wars is heading. It's not beholden to a small hardcore group, it's for everyone. The Last Jedi has some simple answers to intriguing questions, but it left some people unsatisfied who projected on it the Star Wars movie they wanted to see.
Please allow me to finish this because it's a bit of a joke. We see Thanos. If he holds the reality gem, that means he can jump from different realities. This will be our link to the Marvel Universe from the Star Wars universe.
There were plenty of unanswered mysteries in the original trilogy.
Years ago, you said my father, the Clone Wars.
And for years, we had no problem filling in the blanks in our head. We formed our own idealized version of the Star Wars saga, and every new prequel or EU novel that added canon took away from our own. It reminds me of the video game Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Fans of the first game were...
I'm sorry. Again, he just said that for every EU that added canon, EU does not add canon.
Exactly.
It never has and it never will. Okay?
He himself is just, oh man, I don't know what is his, I don't know why he's thinking that that's relevant to his argument.
I have no idea.
I mean, to his defense.
But every Star Wars fan knows that EU is extended universe that is not canon. Even George Lucas himself said it. And I'm pretty sure that Disney is doing the exact same thing now that they removed everything after episode 6.
Yeah, exactly.
All extended universe after episode 6 is gone. So by his comment, he just stated that Disney just killed a whole bunch of canon.
Yeah. Again, like I said, he's ill-informed, man. He does not know half of what he's talking about.
No.
Or he didn't do the research, I guess.
I guess not. But EU does not add canon. It never has and it never will.
Dying to get back in Solid Snake's bandana, so imagine their shock when he gets killed off after the tutorial level.
Metal Gear. That's your area right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll avoid going into a rant.
But at the time, a lot of fans felt genuinely ripped off. It was the polar opposite of what they hoped for, and people were pissed. But with today's hindsight, MGS2 is considered a postmodern masterpiece. Writing becomes a crucial part of the series, and the game actually uses subversion to comment on the nature of hype itself.
Given the right situation, the right story, anyone can be shaped into Snake. Even rookies can fight like men of experience.
Sometimes we have to let go of our expectations and get excited about what's new. Just like The Last Jedi, it's about moving on.
Okay, I want to get into that.
Okay.
The Last Jedi is about moving on, in my opinion, and of course this is just my personal opinion about moving on. If they really wanted to move on, they wouldn't have put in the classic characters.
Exactly. Well, like easily, that's just, you know,
That
you can't get any, you know, more precise than that.
Yes,
I mean,
that
moving
was
on is
in
the
my
concept.
Yes, exactly. In my opinion, if that's really what they wanted to do, and they really wanted to move on and further progress the story of Star Wars in a different direction, don't even bring up the classic characters.
What did they see with those classic legacy characters? The dollar signs. That's
exactly.
what it is. That's how they were trying to bring us in.
That's what it was. It was. I think.
Well, they brought us in, but now we're pissed. So.
I think Disney felt that they might be doing a little bit of fan service, but at the same time, I know in my heart, for it to be fact, that Disney simply did it because they knew they were going to get a wider audience and they were going to get more money, more people in those in those seats to watch the films. And I think that that's exactly why they did it. Because if they really wanted to move on, I want to truly believe, as a Star Wars fan and my own personal opinion, that the book was closed in Episode 6.
Yeah.
So the Skywalker saga, Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, all of them, it closed with Episode 6. I think we were fine with it. We had closure. We didn't want to know more. If we wanted to know more, we would have gone to Extended Universe, but we were happy with that.
Exactly.
And for them to have brought them, I think this is what pissed off a lot of fans even more, was the fact that they brought them in just to either kill them off or to disrespect them in one way or another.
Yeah.
Meaning, for instance, Han's death, I think, was shitty.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Luke's death was even worse.
Well, it's like I said when I read that comment on YouTube, or I read it somewhere. Death by teleconference. no, death by conference call.
Death by conference call.
That's just like the worst death ever.
It is.
It doesn't get any more disgraceful than that.
It is. It's very disgraceful, and one of the most disgraceful ones was Akbar as well.
No.
You know, it's like you took these characters that we hold dearly from the classic films, and just to bring them in and kill them off. It's like we were happy with what it was.
Yeah. We want to imagine them being happy with the grandkids, living out to their old age.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
I would have been fine with that.
I mean,
and teaching, you could say you want, in your mind, you want to say, oh, they're teaching their grandkids or the great grandkids how to pass on knowledge and stuff. It's
but here's the thing. I mean, Disney, J.J. Abrams, and Rian Johnson had a plethora of information to work with. Yeah. They could have taken a lot of stuff from Extended Universe and could have used it as inspiration. Mm-hmm. For instance, if you take R.A. Salvatore's Vector Prime, right? We are, if you read, as a Star Wars fan, if you read the Extended Universe, we're used to death. And we're used to the fact that in Vector Prime, Chewbacca dies. Right? And please excuse me if you haven't read the book. If you haven't read it by now, then you're either not going to read it or, it's a little late.
Yeah.
But, R.A. Salvatore killed off Chewbacca in Vector Prime. And I remember when that first happened, there was a lot of people still in denial.
No. No, as they should be. People will always be hold on to their characters.
And they could be, because you could literally say that it's not canon, and so he's still alive. right? But for those of us who took extended universe and said, you know what, we're gonna roll with it, and it's gonna be something that we're really into, and we know it's not canon, but it's a new story.
Yeah.
We got used to it because after that, you had I didn't read too much into I think it was the New Jedi Order.
Okay.
But I remember that Mara Jade was also sick. Of course, Mara Jade is an extended universe character that was created in extended universe and has not become canon. But she was very sick in that story, and I'm not sure if she actually died or not. But Han Solo's kids, one by one, started to die off as well. Jason, Janus, you know, they all, and Anakin, they all died.
They all perished.
You know, they all died. So we are used to death, and so when you kill off a big character, and extended universe these were big characters. You know, going from you know, the Truce at Bakura to the Corellian trilogy to all of the New Jedi Order books out there. There have been a lot of deaths. You know, minor characters, big characters, minor villains, big villains, and so forth. And we're used to that. But they're done in a way that it was respectful.
Yeah.
You know, like Chewbacca died saving Anakin, Solo, and Vector Prime. And when you read it, I mean, it is really sad when you read it, and it has to do with like Chewbacca being in a planet that's basically deteriorating and it's breaking apart. And so the last thing that he does is he grabs Anakin, throws him into the Millennium Falcon. But there's a reason why they can't go back. I think it was because they couldn't land the Millennium Falcon, so they had to kind of back off and fly off. And Han was really pissed. Let's go back, and that they have to go back, but they couldn't.
It was at that breaking point.
Yeah. They couldn't go back, so they just flew the Falcon, and he was really upset in the story, right? And you can read it. I mean, he was, you know, I'm not gonna say he was cussing out, right? But he was really upset. He was yelling at the kid. I think it was Jaina who was driving the Falcon.
Okay.
Right, and he was really upset with her. So you know, it just shows that there is a good way of doing something, the proper way of doing something. And R.A. Salvatore wrote a really, really good book, and there are so many authors in Extended Universe that I wish Disney and Abrams and Brian Johnson would have consulted with. I mean, Timothy Zahn, Michael Stackpole, R.A. Salvatore, Greg Bear, any one of those guys who have written Extended Universe novels could have come in and consulted and said, you know what, this is a good way of doing something because of their experience in Star Wars universe.
I mean, it is sad that Disney themselves, like we had talked about, I think it was yesterday or the other day, I think Disney is just way too cocky. Like, they're way too sure of themselves and say, we got to do it our way, and it's the best way. And that's where you can kind of see all these mistakes happening.
Yeah. I
mean, it's just them saying, nah, we know better. And it's like, you know, like we, you know, with the fans right away will see that, hey, there's a lot missing here still. I mean,
well,
you might
obviously they don't know better.
Yeah, I mean, and like we had made that, you know, that comparison. It's like, you know, you might have all the right ingredients to make a soup. You know, you got the pot, you got the ingredients, but if you don't know how much to add or what is the sweet spot, or even the cook himself, if he's not a very good cook either, or, you know, so many factors go into, like, not just because you have what you think are all the right pieces of the puzzle, is everything going to work. You know, you have to really work at having something that is fun, unique, new, original, yet at the same time, if you're going to include the classic characters, do them justice.
Yeah.
Not the slap in the face that we got with all so far, you know, 2 out of 3 that we've seen, or no, actually more, 3 or 4.
There's 3, yeah.
You know, it's just sad. I mean, but I mean, did we? You want to continue more on that, or should we go on?
No, I mean, well, just to say, I mean, going back to the cook analogy, honestly, I think the issue with 7 and 8 is that they were undercooked. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because there's so much story there, yet they never really kind of brought it up. You know, it's still at a simmer, right? But they never actually got that. You know, I don't know. They just never got it right.
And it's because, like we say, it's because with classic Star Wars that we've already seen, it's just something that you never really get that epic feeling.
Yeah.
Like that there's so much going on. There's so much mystery and intrigue. so many different plot points that are really making your imagination go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, you're watching what you're watching with these, episodes 7 and 8, and they're trying to be more like, oh, we're just concentrating on one or two things, and then that's it. But then it sucks that you'd figure because they're concentrating on one or two things, they do it better than a film that's doing multiple things. But it seems like when Star Wars did multiple things, it got it better.
It got it better, yeah.
I mean, it's sad, that we have to deal with that, because you're just seeing what the bad guys in the new one, 7 and 8, you're just seeing what the bad guys are doing, what the good guys are doing, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other, whole bunch of other, minor and subplots that are going on like in the previous Star Wars films. That's why it gave you such an epic feeling, and you don't feel this in these. You just feel like you're watching almost like a very bare bones soap opera in a way, not a space opera. You could say it's more like a soap opera. I mean, we know what I mean. It's and that's how I always felt when I've been watching these newer ones. Because like I said before, when I would tell you guys, this movie pissed me off, I'm going to go watch the classics. And I go watch the classics, and even though I've seen them a million times, your imagination still goes crazy.
Yeah.
It never stops because you're like, oh man, okay, he takes off here, and I wonder what he does when he goes over here, or, when this happens, you just get so emotionally invested, even though, people like to say, oh, it's because you saw them when you were a kid, and this and that. It's like, no, that's just well-written, well-directed, well-executed, movies. I mean, that's just at its core what Star Wars has always felt like to us.
Yeah.
No filler, no disappointing crap. It's just firing on all cylinders, and all your senses are just perfectly in tune with what you're watching, hearing, and it's an experience that like us will never forget. We'll always have in our hearts.
Oh yeah.
And that's the way I feel that as such a direct connection that we have to the series. And then to see what we're getting now, it's like, man, I mean, it's super disappointing, I mean...
Yeah, it's very disappointing, I mean, to see it that way. And I wish it could have been done better, but, yes, go ahead.
Carry on.
Jedi is about tearing down the mythology of the Star Wars characters, bringing them down to Earth for one last up-close look before they die and become legends. Luke Skywalker isn't the same bold and beautiful hero we last saw him as.
I'll never turn to the dark side.
He let his fear get the better of him for just one moment, and as a result, a lot of people are dead. Luke has nothing but contempt for the Jedi legacy and actually voices a lot of the issues people had with the prequels. For all the talk of the wise and powerful Jedi Order, they were asleep at the wheel during Anakin's fall to the dark side. While they were practicing their cool flips and having boring council meetings, they were completely blindsided by Darth Sidious, and their whole religion got wiped out by CGI clones. Luke has lost faith in what he believes, but as the excellent Yoda cameo proved, you can't get bogged down with tradition. When Luke finally buries the legend he never was, he finds the power to help his friends in need and once again gives the galaxy a new hope. Roll credits. Again, MGS2 kinda nailed this back in 2001. When you're playing as Raiden, you run into Solid Snake.
Been waiting long.
Who's impossibly more badass than the player could ever be.
You want eternal rest? I've got it right here.
Just like Luke, the beloved protagonist of the first game becomes a grizzled mentor, and through Raiden and Rey, we see their past experiences in a very different light.
I've seen this lost.
I just want to say right here, I don't know where he got that Luke became a mentor.
Yeah,
I mean, if you watch the film, I don't really think he mentored her in anything.
I mean, it's just her more trying to like just, find him and bother him about stuff, but at the same time, yeah, there's no real mentorship at all going on.
There wasn't. I mean, when she first got there, he didn't even want to teach her.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do anything. She did everything.
Was it that opening scene? That was just such a slap in the face. He just launched that lightsaber over the mountain or wherever the hell it ended up in the freaking ocean.
And he goes, never mind.
No.
I'm gonna bring up that whole milk thing.
Oh no, where he was chugging that. He was milking something.
I don't understand that. What was with that scene?
I think that was just for like instant meme. That was like instant meme material. like it's just it had such a that scene just looked like a commercial to me. Like one of those wacky,
no business doing there.
It looked like one of those wacky Japanese commercials where they do all this wacky stuff and they give you like that $1 million smile with like the thumbs up and they drink or eat the item that they're supposed to be advertising. That's what it felt like.
That's almost really what it was.
Like, it almost felt like it was supposed to say like Mentos, the fresh maker. You know, like milk does the body good, or whatever he was drinking, or some kind of milk.
Oh my god! But yeah, I mean, I never saw him as a mentor, and I mean, he didn't want to teach her to begin with, and then later on he does go and he tells her, what was it? It was something having to do with the difference between the light and the dark.
Yeah.
And she saw like this big pool of like darkness.
Yeah, then she goes in, and then she's just seeing
herself
herself or something.
It becomes a surreal experience where she's kind of drifting into that dark side, and I guess he kind of tells her that's more or less the dark side, something like that. Mm-hmm. But that was it. He didn't teach her how to use the Force. He didn't teach her how to use a lightsaber.
Yeah, she was just whacking at a rock or something, yeah.
And that's what I don't understand. I mean, that's one of the things that in Episode 7 I really did not like. The fact that she was able to use the Force so easily. She was able to manipulate it so easily. She was able to fight so easily. And there is nothing in that film that leads you to believe that she was a good fighter. Mm-hmm. There was nothing in that film to lead you to believe that she was a good pilot, that she was a good mechanic. Nothing. It was because it was. Mm-hmm. And I never understood that. I mean, I was talking to some friends, and I was telling them, look, there's one thing. Actually, I think I was talking to you guys.
Yeah, most probably. Yeah.
And that there was one thing that they could have done that could have solved all of that, and that was just to simply give her a mechanic friend.
Yeah.
That was it.
To make the connection that she knows how to, fix stuff, or knows what the name of the objects are that she's trying to find when she's scavenging.
Correct.
To bring them to the guy so that she can get some food or get some, any other things that she might need to survive.
Yeah, because I mean, I understand that she was a scavenger, and as a scavenger, I'm pretty sure at some point you'll figure out certain things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just because you're a scavenger doesn't mean you know how to fix things.
Well, yeah.
And this is where you get into a certain group of people that felt that Episode 7 was very much taking cues from all of the other movies, because you had in Episode 1 you had Anakin, who was adept at fixing things. Mm-hmm. And he's always been good at fixing things and so forth, but that was because of part of his the fact that he had the Force. Mm-hmm. And so he could see certain things in different ways that we couldn't.
Yeah.
But everything that Anakin was saying was given validity by Watto and the shop and everything where he worked at. Mm-hmm. He worked with Watto as a mechanic, and he would fix things, and he would clean up and so forth, and that gave whatever he said, it gave it weight and validity. Yeah, because you knew that, hey, even if he's just there with Watto, he's got a mechanic friend in Watto who mm-hmm. can teach him how to do these things.
Exactly.
So you know that, hey, come on, he's not that dumb. He's got to learn something by watching him, right? Mm-hmm. Where did Rey get it?
Yeah, we just hear she's just living inside an AT-AT.
Yeah.
Or I think it was an AT-AT or an AT-ST. She was living in, or was it just a ship? I forget.
It might have been just a ship.
She was living in something. Yeah, it's been a while since.
Again, I have to reiterate this. I've seen this movie once.
Same here. Yeah.
I mean, that's how poorly I feel this movie was. Is the fact that I still have not purchased it. I own Episodes 1 through 7. Mm-hmm. Each one I have pre-ordered. I mean, when Episode 1 came out, okay, I pre-ordered that film on VHS.
Oh, yeah.
I purchased
good old-fashioned Suncoast?
Yes.
I remember I was there.
At Suncoast.
Yeah. That's where I got my copy also.
I purchased that movie at $45 for a VHS tape. Okay.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. Now you pre-order a film and it costs you like what, $30.
At the most $30. That's if you want to go for
the I'm still,
Ultra HD with what?
Like 4K
DVD,
and all of that.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about back in '99.
Yeah. 99.
Okay, I pre-ordered this film. Okay, VHS at $45.
You get the cool bonuses too.
Oh yeah, of course. You got the film cell, and you got the concept art booklet from Doug Chiang. That was a really nice booklet. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still have it, but that's how invested I was. I mean, I did like the film. I loved it. I pre-ordered it, and I pre-ordered Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3. I have all the Blu-rays. We have several copies of Star Wars going from the old VHS to the Blu-rays now. I mean,
but now there's just something about Episode
8. I have not purchased. I did not pre-order it, and I did not purchase it.
I did buy Episode 7, but I bought it for my brother for his birthday. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it at that. Episode 8. I'm not gonna purchase it, but I'll leave it at that.
I mean, I eventually probably will because I would hate
Black Friday.
Yeah,
Black
I mean,
Friday's
I'll probably wait for Black Friday to see if they have anything there. I probably already missed like the Steelbook edition because they do have the Steelbook edition of episode.
Yeah.
I have 2 versions of episode 7 for crying out loud. Okay, that's how invested I was, and that's how much I was hoping episode 8 would be good.
And going forward, more than anything, like, how do you feel about like the series as a whole, as far as not the spin-offs, but just as if episode 9 shits the bed with this new trilogy? What do you think? You're gonna pull a full not boycott, but a full anti Star Wars hype? You know what I mean about the looking forward to it. Like, do you think it's just gonna kill your love for looking forward to new stuff from the main?
Yes, from the main story. Yes, it already has. Like I said, I'm not going to go to the episode 9 premiere. I'm
like
not
right
going.
now, you're just it's being put across the internet. Your reservation is not.
Yeah, it's not.
No more reservation.
I mean, damn.
I don't know. It's a big decision. I mean, I am also on that same boat because I feel like what's the point of being there day one when we're just gonna?
Didn't we get our episode 1 tickets like I think it was a week or 2 weeks in
Something
advance?
like that, yeah, it was.
I mean that's how invested we were. I mean,
but that was back then when you couldn't do it like that way. Now you can do it a lot sooner. I think. I mean, a lot farther back in the newer ones, right? I think nowadays.
I don't know.
Like when it comes. No, well, remember? Didn't we purchase the episode 8 tickets like a month in advance or a month and a half?
Did
like,
we?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I know I purchased them for the 3 of us. It was a while in advance. Like the moment that they announced the tickets were on sale.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, but
I mean, episode 9, I'm not going to, to
pre-order,
watch. Yeah.
You just go watch it eventually, or
I'll watch it eventually.
$5 Tuesday. That's about the best time to go. I mean,
it could be. Yeah, I mean, I'll go watch it at the $5 Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if it's a good film, then it might redeem itself. But if it's still crap, I mean, I know that they're giving Ryan Johnson his trilogy. I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
Ryan Johnson. It's like, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm not even gonna watch your 3 films. And it's sad that the spin-offs, which are the ones that they're considering Star Wars stories, which is Rogue One and Solo. It's sad that those films are doing, in my opinion, they're much better than the actual episodes.
You'd figure it'd be the other way around.
You'd figure it would be the other way around because
more concentration and more thought will be put into making them deliver.
When we saw episode 7, we were excited. We went to go watch it. We saw it twice, and I liked it. Like I said, it was okay. It had potential. There were a lot of unanswered questions that we hoped that 8 would answer, and that's why I went to go see 8, because I thought that we were going to get more progression into the story, not regression.
Yeah.
Right?
Not characters get worse. I'm looking at you, Poe Dameron. I feel his character was so cool and charismatic in 7. And then in 8, they turned him into a whiny little whatever the hell he ended up being.
He was just very
way
very
too
impulsive.
angsty, way too, oh, it's my way or the highway, and it's just like, oh man, like seriously.
Which regressed the character.
Yeah, I mean, he had potential to be a good character. Good pilot. He was, well liked by at least the characters in the film. At first, he had that tension with
Finn.
Yeah, with Finn, and then that got resolved, and then that's what helped him bond, and then with the other characters too. But then I did not like the way they turned him into what he turned into in episode 8. But
yeah, I didn't like that either, and like I mentioned before, I think it was just false tension that they were creating, and it was a poor way of doing it. Him and of course Laura Dern's character, keeping all of that, you do your thing, and we're gonna do ours, and you don't need to know about ours.
And because of that, a lot of people, you could say, needlessly died.
Yeah.
Akbar being one of them. General Akbar.
Because of that.
Admiral Akbar, or was he General? I mean, it was Admiral Akbar in Return of the Jedi, right?
Well, isn't Admiral a higher title?
Is it? I forget.
Actually, I don't know, dude. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know much about like the
hierarchy,
the rankings and stuff.
Yeah,
the ranking hierarchy, I don't know much about, but I don't remember.
Well, she was General Leia, wasn't she? General Leia in this new one?
Was she?
I think she was a general.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
But hopefully Admiral, yeah.
And again, it's kind of hard to remember all of this because, I mean, we saw it once.
Yeah.
And that was back in December.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I haven't seen it since
Once
then.
is enough.
And I really haven't read much about it either. And to be honest with you, 7 and 8, you know me. Mm-hmm. With the classics and the prequels, I mean, I had my own Star Wars website. I have
Spaceport City.
A bunch.
I remember that. I was always on there too. Remember, I was always like, "Hey, you got to do this, update this at this part, and make it." And those were the cool days.
Yeah,
the good old days. But anyways.
And I have a bunch of books. I mean, the Star Wars Encyclopedia. You know, the guides. You know, the guide to vehicles, guide to characters, guide to planets, the Atlas. You know, I have a bunch of books that I wanted to know more about this universe. Episode 7 and 8 don't make me want to know more about it. I really don't care for the characters. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's, you know, my own personal opinion, my own personal view of it. I don't care for these characters, and I don't care to know more about them. And that like, that you know, that hurts.
It does, yeah.
You know, to know that it's like it's Star Wars, and you know what? I don't even want. I don't care. And it kind of sucks because they basically ruined something that was a for sure if they just would have done it right. Mm-hmm. And for episode 7 and episode 8, for them to be below, say for instance, Rogue One, which is just a Star Wars story. I mean, Rogue One was such an awesome film. It was a beautiful film. It was great characters, great story. I mean, it was perfect.
The like I said, when you're firing on all cylinders, it's like, man. I mean, there's no greater feeling than that.
Yeah.
You have. You know, and like I said, when I saw it, when I went to Austin and I saw it in the IMAX, it was just like mind blowing. I think like, holy, how the hell is this better than what we're getting with the main story? Yeah. Like, I couldn't believe it myself. I was like, almost felt like a dream.
It's like it's like saying like, you know, you buy a video game and you play the main story. The main story sucks. You get the DLC and the DLC is better.
That's well, it's kind of a little like Fallout New Vegas. I did like the DLC more than the main game, but that's just me. But anyways.
But, you know, it kind of sucks because that main story is what's supposed to hook you in. It's supposed to drive the game or the movie or the book or the comic or whatever it is that you're into. Yeah. It's the driving force behind it. And for it to suck and then all of a sudden they do a spin-off and the spin-off is better, like, how is that even possible? Yeah. You know,
something is really wrong, when that happens.
But the writing and the directing, I mean, it was so great in Rogue One, and I feel that they should have gotten those people to work on the episodes.
Yeah, and that's what's insane for them, for us. Remember when there was a lot of trouble production on it. There was like so much going on with the directors. I believe there was like 2 directors.
Oh, okay.
And you know what I mean? Like I think do you remember the name of the guy? I think it was Gareth Edwards, maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't.
That he came in to help finish off the film. Yeah, and that's what's weird for that to turn out how good, you know, the way it turned out. Then a kind of similar situation with when Ron Howard came in to save Solo. Yeah. So it was like these spin-offs have like these troubled, you know, productions, these troubled, you know, there's a lot of issues going on, yet they still turn out better than the main story. Yeah. And then the main story, you don't hear about any of that. Everything was fine and dandy. But
it's like the director we wanted, he's on board. The writer we wanted, they're on board, and it just it sucks.
Exactly.
It's you know, and Solo, we went to go see Solo, and I thought Solo was a good film, and it pains me to hear that it's failing, and one of the reasons is because of, you know, this fan boycott that they're doing. And I understand where the fans are coming from. I mean, it's like this. You know, when someone is bringing out a bad product and you continue to purchase that product, they're going to continue to take out that bad product. They're going to, here's the second version of this bad product, and you buy it and you buy it. Here's the third version of this bad product. Now, I understand where the fans are...
We're looking at you, Madden. Or Call of Duty, or Battlefield, or Assassin's Creed,
or all of Nintendo.
Oh no, we won't get into that can of worms that you just opened. But
I know, right?
we'll just have to leave it there.
But you know, I understand where the boycott is coming from. Is you're basically telling Disney and everyone who's working on these films, like, hey, we're not gonna watch this. It doesn't matter if it's good. We're not gonna watch it until you bring out something good over here. Mm-hmm. Until you listen to us, until you hear us, and you understand that what you're bringing out is not good. Mm-hmm. It's not right. Fix it.
Yes, correct.
You know, and it kind of sucks that it had to go that route, and I understand it, but at the same time, don't blame the other film for, you know,
like
these other missteps.
Yeah, like support what's good and don't support what's bad.
Right.
Like a very straightforward approach would help, you know, to get the message to Disney. Like, hey, we're liking this side stuff more. If it comes to just giving us more of that and less of the main stuff, well, just give us more of that. But the main stuff is sucking, so that's what we'll boycott. Yeah. Not the.
Solo wasn't bad. I mean, I did like it. It was a good movie. There still were some issues with it, and it's understandable trying to get, you know, a character like Han Solo, correct without it being Harrison Ford. Oh, yeah. That's exactly. A tough job. And I know that the main actor, I don't, you know, his name escapes me right now, but I know that there was a lot of, you know, issues with the actor, and I know that I had read that they even had to bring in some acting coaches.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, we talked about that.
And so forth, and it kind of sucks when your main actor needs acting coaches. You know, that doesn't bode well for the film itself. But I think, you know, the entire story was pretty good. I love the way they brought in Chewbacca and how, you know, Han met Chewie, and I did not like, I don't know what the big deal was with Donald Glover and the Lando character.
How did you feel about that? 'Cause I don't think we've talked about it too much.
I wasn't a big fan. I mean, he did okay and everything, but I just don't understand
the hype around
the character.
Like too much hype then.
Not only that, but I didn't like the way they introduced the characters together, and I didn't like the way that, you know, Han supposedly got the Millennium Falcon. Okay. Because, yeah, there's a lot to be said about those two characters, especially because of their meeting in Cloud City. Mm-hmm. In Cloud City, you know, it's implied that they have this big history, and they've been through a lot together, and you know, even in Return of the Jedi, there's a mention of Lando being a part of some war or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was there, and that's why he was made a general.
Okay.
Now, in Solo, they didn't bring any of that out, and the characters are very young, and so compared to how they get to A New Hope, like the age that Han is in A New Hope. I mean, we're talking possibly 15 years, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Because I mean, they don't look that old, to be honest with you. So there's a lot to be told between Solo and A New Hope, and a lot to be told between those two characters. And it I don't know, it didn't jive for me the way that they met.
The execution kind of was just lacking.
Yeah, I think it was. Because I didn't feel like they had that chemistry that Han and Lando, or in this case Harrison Ford and Billy D. Williams, the chemistry that they had in Cloud City. Exactly. Because it seemed like they did have, you know, like they were friends for years, and they had that chemistry.
That's the vibe that we got,
Yeah, and over here it really didn't. There was that, and of course there's the whole thing. There's some emotional parts in that film that I think fell flat. And they tried to be very emotional about it, but I didn't feel it as much as I did like in Rogue One.
The proper character depth, you think?
I think so, yeah, because there wasn't, in my opinion, a good flow of characterization. Okay. So you really don't get invested in the characters as much
you
as
have to have that
you do.
For those notes to hit. I mean, if you don't have that, then you just, like you say, it falls flat. And you want to feel it, but then you don't, so you're like, oh man, that's such a huge missed opportunity right there. When a film doesn't execute it well, you know, kind of a similar situation with how we felt with, or at least I did maybe, in, I forget, we talked about it in Avengers Infinity.
Okay.
With the whole Gamora part. section was a little undercooked. I don't know. I remember feeling like, I don't know. Like I was feeling like all this is happening and Star-Lord ain't even here. You know what I mean? I guess that scene for some reason was busy Star-Lord to try and come in and save the day or do something and
to give it that punch of emotion.
Exactly. You know what I mean, right? It kind of just felt like, well, she fell down. Oh, sorry, spoilers, but sorry. Yeah, I don't even know how. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. There we go.
I'm pretty sure most people have seen it by now.
But anyways, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll get back on topic, but let's see where we're at with continuing.
Yeah, it's good. Let's go ahead and continue with the video.
We'll talk about that later.
Both stories are about passing the torch to future generations and trying to leave them a better world before you vanish into the binary sunset.
Find something to believe in and find it for yourself. And when you do, pass it on to the future. Believe in what? That's your problem.
By the end of The Last Jedi, nearly all of the old cast is gone. Han, Luke, even Admiral Akbar is toast. I guess it's a wrap. So stupid. And sadly, Carrie Fisher passed before we could see what Episode 9 had in store for Leia. In their place, we've got a new cast of genuinely awesome characters who are conveniently played by young, charismatic actors who definitely come a lot cheaper than Harrison Ford.
Well, that's the real trick, isn't it?
They're absolutely worthy of the Star Wars legacy, and so is The Last Jedi, even though it wasn't perfect. Right off the bat, I kind of have to agree with the haters on Leia's Mary Poppins float. It's no Yondu. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! And yeah, the execution is kind of ridiculous, but I have no problem with the idea of a force bubble keeping you alive in a vacuum. If a Green Lantern can do it, so can Darth Vader's daughter. I'm also cool with Luke's whole astral projection thing. I mean, it has some pretty great foreshadowing. Did you notice how Kylo and Luke's blades never touch? It's why he did all those cool Matrix moves instead of blocking. His feet don't actually make an impression in the salty ground, and he's using the same lightsaber that just broke in half IRL. I guess what I'm trying to say is Charles Xavier does this shit all the time, and I don't hear anyone complaining. There were some plot and pacing issues, and the characters were a little quippy at times, but with Han gone, we can't just laugh at Chewie growling.
Oh, really? You're cold?
Because
He's a vegan now. They don't have a sense of humor.
oh shit. I do agree that Finn and Rose's whole quest was ultimately kind of pointless in the larger scheme of the story, but hey, this is Act 2 of the trilogy. Our characters are supposed to screw up and fail, so they'll do better in Part 3. All in all, we think Rian Johnson made an excellent Star Wars film, and so did Lucasfilm since they gave him his own brand new trilogy as a reward. The Last Jedi feels like he wanted to clear the slate and start fresh. Now that we're past the necessary nostalgia of The Force Awakens, Johnson was able to drop the baggage and make a far less conventional film. Of course, that makes it a little awkward that JJ's coming back for the next one. Hope he didn't have any big plans for Snoke, but I think he'll respect the new direction Johnson has taken the Star Wars saga.
A lot to discuss there, but
I don't.
where to even begin, right? I guess like this whole.
I really don't know why Lucasfilm gave Rian Johnson his own trilogy, and I think that's why a lot of people are calling for Kathleen Kennedy's job, because I mean they feel that she's not doing
the
right
justice,
decisions. Yeah, she's not making the right decisions in this, and in my opinion, she's not. She's not making the right decisions when it comes to the core storyline. If she is the one that has a hand in the Star Wars stories, in Rogue One and Solo, then she's doing well there. That's fine. They're getting the right actors, they're getting the right writers and directors to make these films, and they are awesome films. But yeah, when it comes to the core story, for some reason,
it seems like at the expense of the core story.
It is.
Yeah.
You have these spin-offs that are doing really, really well, but at the expense of the core story. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be the other way around.
Yeah, you'd figure there'd be more concentration on the main story because, of course, that's what really gets more audience in there as a whole.
Yeah.
Compared to the side, stories. But I mean, it's going to be tricky. I mean, with this next one, we still don't know. Have they even released any type of information at all? We're still at nothing, right? There's zero details.
I don't know if they have or if they haven't.
I've heard anything. Yeah. I usually hear from coworkers and other friends, but no one said anything.
Yeah, so I haven't really looked into it.
But it's not this year, right? It's next year, right? Pretty sure it's next year. Yeah, we would have heard something by
2020?
now. Yeah.
Or 2019?
2019.
Yeah, 2019.
We would have had trailers by now if it was this year. If it
It would
was
be-
this December.
It would be way too early because I mean Solo just came out.
Yeah.
I mean that was one of the things that people were talking about, that Solo came out way too close to Episode 8, because Episode 8 came out in December and Solo came out in May. And that's why, like 5 months. You know, so they were 5 months apart rather than a year apart, the way, you know, Episode 7 and Rogue One were. I don't know if maybe they tried to cash in, or if
trying to go cash in on that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, supposedly Disney already knew they were gonna lose money with the film, so they probably felt like, you know what, release it now, release it later, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but
they're still gonna be at the same point of having their projections wherever they were set.
Yeah, in my opinion, they should have released it around December. If they're not going to release Episode 9 in December, then release Solo in December, just the way they did with Rogue One, and wait for this.
That's the killer time when everyone's on vacation.
Not only that, but I mean, you give people time, you know, this backlash, you give it time to kind of die down.
True. Yeah.
5 months after Episode 8, we're still feeling it.
Yeah, and we're still there. Right now, we're still talking about it.
Yes.
we still have videos of people talking questioning why the rest of us, you know, hardcore fans are still pissed off, and will continue to be pissed off. But there are legitimate reasons. Not like in the video where he's trying to like just list them all at the very end. Like, yeah, I don't have to. I'm gonna list like 5-6 different reasons why I know everyone hates it, but I won't, you know, delve into that. But of course, yeah, you won't, because they're not in favor of your defense or whatever, or your argument or whatever he was trying to say, that he doesn't understand why people are pissed. Well, it's like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, that's really why he doesn't understand it. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if him and the whole, you know, now this nerd group have, you know, fanboy blinders on, but yeah, I am a huge fan of Star Wars, you know, and I love Star Wars, but I am not going to sit here and try and polish a turd when you know that you can't.
You can't.
You know, so
turd is a turd through and through.
Yeah. I mean, I know when something is crap, and I'm sorry if
we'll give it a shot, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna just, you know, blindly say, oh yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. But if it has a lot of things wrong with it, especially more like we've said, for us, since it's Star Wars, you expect a high level of polish there.
Yeah.
You know, not polish on a turd, but just polish. You know, and that's what I feel a lot of these people try to do. They try and say, oh, we don't know what you guys are getting all worked up about. But it's like, come on, man. If you listed them at the end of your video, you know why we're worked up about stuff.
I know.
It's like, come on, man. I mean, that's what I mean by these videos. A lot of times, you can't really take them too seriously. They'll be entertaining to a point, and they'll get us to a point where they want to get us riled up, like, you know, enough right now for us to give a response. But I think, you know, through and through, these people that, like you said, they have these blinders on, or maybe they're just new fans that aren't really hardcore Star Wars fans. They're casuals or hipsters to the series, so they're just like, well, all the other shit. Well, I'm sorry, pardon my French here. All the other stuff that bothers me, you know, I mean, all the other stuff that bothers other people doesn't really bother me, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, hey, that's not the way it is, man. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that is wrong with it.
But it's kind of weird, because I mean, if he's got this scale, right, just like we all do, the pros and cons of a film, a book, a comic, or whatever it may be, he's listing all of these things that are wrong with it. What is it that was right that outweighs, you know, the wrong? Because there are so many things that he was saying that are wrong with it, and yet so very little things that were good with it. You know, he just kept saying, like, oh, there's awesome characters. Really? Are there awesome characters?
I didn't see the charismatic. The only one I kind of saw was just Poe Dameron to a degree. I don't really see much charisma in the other new ones, because, like we said, they do things that don't feel natural, that aren't really written very well to give them the right amount of characterization to really make you understand and take them seriously within the film itself. You know, they're just written in a way to just go from point A to point B. You know, you're just along for the ride. And there's nothing building them up. So that's why I don't see the charisma there. You know, it's like you don't feel that it's genuine. You know.
And I mean, I can go into like a long list and a long rant about the characters and how they are not characterizing these characters at all. You get nothing from these characters. Very little background, very little characteristics, very little anything with these characters that really shapes them. They're flat. They're flat characters that are just there, and even their actions don't really progress the story. They don't progress anything along these films.
Yes.
And we can sit here and we can rant all about it. I mean, it could be. I mean, I could go for hours.
Yeah, well, same with me. We've done it before.
Yes, man. I mean, I can go for hours about what's wrong with it, but I can also, go for hours about what's right with it, and where the potential was in these films, and the fact that they are not 100% awful, but they are awful. Yeah. But
there's a lot of issues, but.
There's a lot of issues, but it did have, some rays of light in there, but it wasn't enough. Yeah. And they're not actually honing in on those good things and bringing them out and saying, well, let's focus on that and let's
improve it.
And improve it, exactly.
For every subsequent film. Yeah.
They just seem to be focusing and making things worse by going with what's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And, well, I mean, there's really not much that you can say about it in terms of that, because, I mean, you're going to list a whole bunch of bad things, very little good things, and in my opinion, personally, the bad just outweighed the good.
Yeah, I mean, for me also, it far outweighed it, because it's not just trying to have unrealistic expectations. You automatically just want to have an awesome time, have your imagination go crazy with a Star Wars film, and when we don't get that, we kind of got a little bit of that in the first one, what you said, with some mysteries. The second one just completely dropped the ball, episode 8, and then we're loving the side stories a lot more. So, what does that tell you? That's where we're at right now at this point, when it comes to.
I mean, the thing is that and I guess I'll just kind of end my part with this, is that they turned what was the classic films and even the prequels from a fantasy space opera into a straight up science fiction.
Yeah.
And that's not really what I want my Star Wars to be.
Oh yeah.
We all had an understanding that it had, heavy sci-fi elements to it, but we all knew that it was a science fiction space opera. And it was an epic film.
Yes.
And it got even grander when George Lucas introduced the prequels. And for them to just come and J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson just kind of really turn it into more of a science fiction film, a cookie cutter film that is like, well, as long as you have these elements in there, it should be good, right?
We're just getting a watered down version.
Yeah, and
very watered down.
And that's that's something that I didn't like and I didn't appreciate as a fan. I wanted my fantasy space opera. I wanted something that I could immerse myself in.
It challenges the mind. It makes you look at things in a whole new light. I mean, that's what just to say real quick. That's why I still love reliving the old ones. Yeah, I'll watch them, and no matter how many times you see them, you're just like, wow, this is great storytelling. You have so much, rich, detailed worlds, characters that you just can't help but love, and we just don't feel it with these new ones. And I mean, it's just sad that a lot of people will say that they feel that, but then you just wonder, are we watching the same film?
Yeah, I know.
Because I get that a lot at work, because I at work I do have a couple of younger crowd that I work with where I'm always like questioning, wow, I don't know if we saw the same movie. But then again, it's with age comes wisdom. Yeah, like we say.
I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion, but again, if you're gonna be defending something or even going against something and you have a straw man argument, it's like, no, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Give me some valid reasons, and in my opinion, Dev Allen, they didn't give me a valid reason as to why he doesn't understand the backlash to this film.
And yet at the very end of the video he lists all the bad reasons.
All the bad reasons.
It's like, all the reasons why he knows people don't like the films. But anyways, I mean, well, I guess we'll leave it at that.
I mean, I think we've said our say, and nothing, really more to go into. I mean,
await our next podcast when episode 9 hits.
Yeah,
probably in January, maybe, because I don't know if December will will be even, you know.
Yeah. Well, not sure. I mean, there's.
Oh, no, sorry, no, the 2019. I'm thinking, yeah, not this year, right?
2019.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe we'll have one when I finally watch Solo. We'll have one, I guess.
Yeah, there's that one, but no, there's still a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of games coming up. I mean, we still haven't talked about E3 or anything like that. So.
And we could have an E3
Yeah,
discussion. Just write down our highlights.
Yeah.
And comment.
Yeah. So.
Discuss.
Hopefully, you'll join us next time, and hopefully we did say our say as to why we don't like this film.
Goodbye, everyone.